Welcome back to our Bible Characters series. Today we're looking at one of the most inspiring figures in the Old Testament, Esther. Her story is found in the book that bears her name, and it's a powerful reminder of courage, faith, and God's providence. What makes Esther's story unique is that God's name is never explicitly mentioned in the entire book, yet his presence is woven throughout every detail. Esther lived in Persia during the reign of King Xerxes, long after the Jewish people had been taken into exile. She was a young Jewish woman raised by her cousin Mordecai. Through a remarkable series of events, Esther rose to become queen of Persia, though she kept her Jewish identity hidden at first. At the same time, a man named Haman rose to power in the king's court. Haman became enraged when Mordecai refused to bow down to him, and in his anger he didn't just target Mordecai, he plotted to wipe out all the Jews in the empire. He convinced the king to issue a decree for their destruction. It was a dark moment for God's people, and everything seemed hopeless. But Mordecai challenged Esther with words that still echo today. Who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this? Esther had a choice: stay silent and protect herself, or risk her life by going to the king uninvited to plead for her people. At first, she hesitated, knowing the risk, but then she resolved to act with courage. She called for a fast, uniting the Jewish people in prayer and dependence on God. Then, one of the most dramatic moments in Scripture, Esther entered the king's court uninvited. Instead of punishing her, the king extended his favor. Esther wisely invited the king and Haman to a banquet, and at the right moment she revealed Haman's plot. The king was furious, and Haman was executed. A new decree allowed the Jewish people to defend themselves, and they were delivered from destruction. To this day, Jews celebrate Purim to remember God's deliverance through Esther's bravery. So what do we learn from Esther? First, we see God's providence. Even when he seems silent, he is still working behind the scenes, arranging events and raising up people to accomplish his purposes. Second, we learn about courage. Esther was an ordinary young woman placed in an extraordinary position, and her willingness to risk her life changed the course of history. Third, Esther shows us the power of obedience and timing. She acted wisely, patiently, and prayerfully, showing that true courage is not reckless but rooted in faith. For us today, Esther's life is a reminder that God places us where we are for a reason. You may not be in a palace, but you may be the one God has positioned in your family, your workplace, or your community for such a time as this. Like Esther, we may face fear and uncertainty, but God calls us to trust him, to step up, and to act with faith when the moment comes. Ultimately, Esther's story points us to Jesus, who also interceded on behalf of his people, not at the risk of his life, but at the cost of his life. Through his sacrifice, he brought deliverance not just from physical destruction, but from sin and death itself. Esther's courage foreshadows the ultimate deliverance that comes through Christ. Esther may have lived centuries ago, but her story speaks directly to us today. It challenges us to live with courage, to trust God's hidden hand, and to be ready to act when God calls. That's why she remains one of the most beloved and inspiring characters in the Bible. Thanks for joining me for this episode of Bible Characters. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. And join me next time as we continue exploring the lives of the people who shaped the story of Scripture.